Hi friends, Max El-Haj here. On this episode of the Corpus Animus podcast, training think tank coach Brannen Dorman interviews Dylan Pettit. Dylan Pettit is an athlete in the training think tank's design program. He finished top 50 in the world in the open. Listen up as this vanilla gorilla answers the questions. If you're on the go and you want to listen to just the audio version, subscribe to the Corpus Animus podcast on your favorite podcast app. Get better at the sport of CrossFit alongside some of the best athletes in the world in our online training program, The Design. Head over to our website, trainingthinktank.com/DSGN to learn more.
And we're back for another edition of the Corpus Animus podcast, and we have a special guest today. Dylan Pettit is here. I'm going to cut that off. Did that sound good? I feel like that was a really good one. Yeah,
I would say that's pretty impressive.
You just finished a 3-day games camp helping Noah out. How sore are you right now?
Very sore. I was just telling Max this morning, I woke up and he's asking me how I feel, and I was like, trying not to lie about it, but yeah, I'm really wrecked. I'm happy it's over. I'm not happy it's over, but I'm happy that the physical part of it is over. Yeah.
It's funny. There's like a balance when you're in the middle of a competition of almost welcoming the pain and being okay with where you're at or the soreness or whatever it may be, but then also kind of like pushing that aside, right? And saying, hey, I still, and you said this to me before the last event, I've got to go and crush this event, and you won it. So that was a nice way to kind of prepare yourself.
100%. Yeah. I didn't want to leave anything out there and be regrets, so I went after it and just got it done.
Yeah, so Dylan is a part of the Training Think Tank organization in a different way. You do some hybrid work with Max, and then also in the design, which we'll talk about a little bit. But I think the thing that I'm always so interested for high-level athletes, so Dylan has made some sanctionals. You competed last before COVID
one sanctional
at Mayhem, and you had some ups and downs there, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the thing that I'm always most interested about, especially high-level athletes, which you are, I mean, you crushed this weekend, and we'll get into those, is what got you into CrossFit, and then what was your sport background before CrossFit?
All right, so what got me into CrossFit? Well, let's start with my sport background.
Yeah,
how about that?
For sure.
I mean, growing up, I'll start like there. From growing up, I played probably every sport you could think of under the sun. Soccer, baseball, basketball, football.
Spike ball?
I dabble here and there. I know that you guys are pretty competitive with that.
Did we play yet?
We haven't played you guys, but I've definitely played.
You're lucky my back's hurt.
Challenge.
Oh, that's your excuse?
Yep.
There's always one with Chris. Unbelievable.
No, yes, I dabble in spike ball, but probably not as competitive as you guys in that. But those were my 4 sports growing up. And then from there, when high school, it transitioned more just to focusing on football. And then in college, played 2 years over at Washington State. Didn't play very much. So it's not really like for me, something I'd like to talk about too much, but it's also something like I did it. I have the experience behind it. And then from there, that's where the transition into CrossFit began. Was after 2 years of there, met some buddies, was in the weight room, just doing some bro stuff. And then a guy came up to me, actually, shout out to Pete Barner. He's a guy that was a regional guy over there at Washington State. Approached me, was like, hey, have you been interested in CrossFit? I said, no, don't want anything to do with that. I've kind of trashed it a lot. And then he came up, he was persistent, came up to me again later. I want to say like a few weeks later, and was like, hey, are you, I know you said no to me before. What are some of the movements you like to do? And I kind of told him, I was like, hang power cleans, like anything heavy lifting.
It's so funny to cut you off. Hang power clean is like the go-to for any strong football player, right? That was the only thing I wanted to do.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I like deadlifts and stuff, but like hang power cleans, that's my go-to. And then anything bounding, like box jumps, things like that. So he threw together this workout, had like running, box jumps, and like hang power cleans, I want to say it was. And we were up on the second floor where the track was. And I just remember getting eaten alive out there. And it was like an EMOM style. And I got kind of bit by the bug after that. And that's kind of where it took off back in, I think my junior year of college is when it kind of really started.
Yeah. It's funny. We're all masochists at heart because that's how we jump in, right? I was the same way. I like talk trash about CrossFit. I was like, no, I'm a, strength and conditioning. I love football. That's what I did all the way through college too. Yeah. And I had a style of lifting that I loved and I wanted to be in fitness. And that's kind of what I was focused on. But then all of a sudden somebody said, hey, come and try this, right? My first workout was Fran. I did strict.
That's a rough one to begin with.
Yeah. It's funny though, because the thrusters destroyed me, but I did strict pull-ups. So it wasn't that fast, right? And that's like the only thing that I knew how to do. But I was still crushed afterwards. I'm like, man, I love this. Like, I got to try another one, right?
I don't know if I would say I loved it right away. I would say more so it was like, all right, I never want to do this again. But like, like in it, I said that, but afterwards it was like kind of talking with him and how it like changes and things are different. I was like, kind of just sat there. I remember that night and I was like, I should probably go try this at an actual like gym, an affiliate. And that's where I think it kind of was. I think it would be like more the second time where I stepped in to a gym and I was like, all right, this is for sure something I want to try to get after. So
I want to dive into your sport background a little bit because one of the things that, and the reason I asked the question that I've found is that people that have played other sports usually adapt faster in CrossFit. And I don't necessarily mean like to the movement patterns or anything, but adapt to the psychological effects of the sport. They learn that, hey, sometimes things just take time, right? Yeah. And so like you talk about football and maybe that's a sore subject in college. If
it's not sore, it's just
something you don't talk about, but it taught you something, right?
For sure.
So can you dive into that a little bit about like what your sport background helped you with and maybe what it hurt you with?
Well, first off, let's start with the negative. So what it hurt me with, I would say 100% is just movement in general, movement patterns, like poor quality movement, became very muscle bound. So I didn't really learn technique. I didn't really spend time on technique. Yes, it was something that I was very fortunate. My coaches were still, I guess I want to say, like trying to work on with me. They weren't just like, okay, here you go. But like, it's nothing that I tried to refine. So that was one of the negatives I would say, but the positives behind it all was from sport in general, not lifting the weights in the weight room was one, the ability to get knocked down and get right back up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times that, especially in this sport of CrossFit, and I don't have that much experience, but I'm happy with where I'm going to or where I've been headed. And I would say the biggest thing is I think a lot of times people get like negative emotions, get knocked down, and they're like, "Oh my God, I suck," and I need to get better. And believe me, I have those times too. Like it's not like it's non-existent, but I think one of the things is it's going to happen. Everybody is getting knocked down. Everybody is having rough days. You got to keep moving on. And if you want to get better at something, you can't just say you want to get better at it. You got to like spend the time refining the movements. Just like in football or any soccer or anything like that, especially college sports, we're not sitting there just lifting weights over and over again, getting spit out. We're basically, if you need to get stronger or you need to basically get quicker, more agile, you're going out to the field, you're spending time making sure that you're like spending and focusing on that rather than just like, hey, let's scrimmage and let's get that done. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, and you're going to break our little red tank over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I think the word that I always come back to is just experience, right? Like it's funny because a lot of people come into this sport. I say this all the time, but it's the only sport that people come into that have no background in anything CrossFit, and then they say to us, "I want to make the games." That would be like me, the 5'9" white boy, going to Phil Jackson and saying, "Hey, I want to make the NBA. Can you help me?" I mean, and I don't want to crush anybody's dreams, but it's ridiculous. So you have to have some kind of experience.
100%, I would say some sort of experience of whether that's learning to compete or anything, right? Or even having a training background from a lifting or running or some standpoint, something that basically is going to push you to a competitive level and then get knocked down, get right back up. And that one's a very easy analogy. And I think for me, because for you as well, it relates right to football. Get your ass knocked down, you get right back up. I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss on this.
Cuss twice and then it's okay. If you just do it once,
there's
it's weird.
All right. I got one in, so I got to get the next ass in there.
Daddy Chris? Is he
that ass count? We're not going to count that ass.
All right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was one of the things that helped me, and that's what I want to kind of flesh out with you, just to kind of see where your thought process was and how it helped you with the sport. I had some ups and a lot of downs playing football, and I had some good seasons, bad seasons. I had a lot of injuries that I had to navigate through. Probably the fittest I ever was as far as football fitness was my junior year in college, and I broke my leg right before the season. And that was the hardest time in my life because I had to just reassess everything. But it allowed me to figure out how to navigate the CrossFit path. And now as a coach, when people are going through ups and downs or injuries or whatever it may be. So I think that just as an encouragement for people, and what I wanted to kind of hear from you is if it was the same of, hey, look, things are good, things are bad in the sport. And especially in this sport where you're not going to win every single event. Like you just went through 15 events and you won some, you lost some, but it's just about how you stack up on the leaderboard, learning how to overcome those obstacles.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have anything as, I guess, dramatic or tragic as you had breaking your leg, like, geez. But for sure, like I've had many experiences. I was very fortunate in the fact that I never really experienced a lot of injuries in my sport, but I also with that wasn't playing very much. So but I just still like being at practice, being around that, living, breathing sports from the time literally like I was like 5 years old all the way up until college, 22 years old. And then now with CrossFit, it's like I've had a good amount of training experience, not in CrossFit, but just in general of that. And then I think also making sure that you have people that believe in you, whether that's teammates or a girlfriend, or like my girlfriend, Ashley, she's been awesome. But I mean, if you have people that support you, push you, and like remind you of that process, it really helps out a lot. So.
Yeah. So you were telling me just before we went on, because we were talking about body weight.
Yeah.
When you were in college, you weighed how much?
255.
255.
Yeah.
And I actually should ask you to take your shirt off for the camera.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
I'll maybe edit it in some.
Yeah, put something.
Don't hold me to it.
This dude
Put a little
is
picture in there.
This dude
I'll
is the
probably
most
forget.
stacked CrossFitter I've ever seen.
I appreciate
it.
it.
And how much do you weigh right now?
214, 216. I fluctuate right around there. Trying to get lower, but yeah.
Okay, so long-term goal, what is the body weight?
I think realistically, 210 would be a comfortable, like, you know what, that's where I'm going to be. I think that would be a good goal.
Yeah, and that's a conversation you've had, I'm sure, with Becky, who does your nutrition, with Max, and some of the other coaches.
Awesome. She has been amazing. So, like, real quick on that, I came here, 6 months ago, I want to say, before Mayhem, and I was 225. And I was like a little bit of macros, but it wasn't like, I didn't have somebody to communicate with on a daily basis, none of that. And then I also didn't really have like the support system that I have here. And so with that being said, having somebody check in on me and then being able to ask stupid questions. Like I told you just a little bit ago, I was like, do I weigh my vegetables? Like things like that. Like for her, she was very adamant about it because I want to lose more weight. I don't think that's something that everybody has to do, but she was like, oh yeah, definitely do that. And I have seen tremendous improvements. I'm down, like I just said, 10 pounds from 6 months.
And your reason for wanting to lose the weight was
because I want to get better at body weight movements, running, things like that, being stronger and powerful as well.
Was that hard to swallow, or were you just like immediately like, screw this, I'm getting
like losing weight? Oh no, it wasn't hard to swallow at all. Like
I think after Mayhem,
it was like, I hate to say it, but I was embarrassed. Like it was a good learning experience, but when you've taken last at a sanctional, I mean, yes, it was my first sanctional, very tough sanctional, awesome sanctional, right? Great athletes. You don't want to be out there taking last in basically every workout, not finishing workout. It wasn't fun for me. Does that kind of make sense? So I was like, I'm going to do what I need to do by dialing in my nutrition, making sure that I'm following obviously design and communicating with all you guys and basically just making sure I stick to that regimen. Let's dive into that because that was your first exposure to like a high level sanctional. And then obviously the programming was different than the other sanctionals, but I thought it was really well rounded. I mean, there was a lot of muscular endurance stuff. So that's going to expose someone like you where, your body weight, I would say the average guy there was probably 198 to 202 and you were 225 at the time. 225 at the time. Yeah.
So you went into that and I saw you here the week before when you were prepping for it. And honestly, I was like, man, he looks pretty freaking good. Like, I think he's going to be competitive. Where were you mentally going into that? And then what happened throughout the weekend? And did you feel like you kind of mentally deteriorated over the weekend because of the scores, or were you able to stay resilient despite that?
So, sorry, are you asking what my feeling was at the camp before?
Yeah, at the camp. How did you feel? Did you feel like you were going to be able to go in and crush the workouts? Were you confident with where you were at?
Well, I didn't know the workouts. They weren't released yet.
Yeah.
So, sorry, excuse me. I didn't know the workouts yet. So when we were training here, I was like, oh yeah, like these workouts that were designed here, I was like, all right, I feel pretty good about it. Then once the workouts got released, not instantly, but like I started like seeing, cause they did it where it was like one was 1 hour, then 5 hours go by another like that. Just more and more. I was like, oh, this isn't going to be good for me. There was things like, for example, the run, I forgot what it was, but like a 7K trail run or whatever with a ruck. I instantly knew. I was like, well, I haven't been doing any running, zero running. So I'm going to just survive basically. And then after that, there was things like 20 legless rope climbs in a workout. And I was like, I think I've done most 5 in a workout, like things like, so it was just from there, it started, my confidence started deteriorating a little bit. And then with like the dumbbell squat snatch, weights that I've never, and I had poor mobility because I wasn't really working on that. I was more just trying to do Metcon after Metcon. And so like little things like that. And it's like after the first event, I was like, all right, I finished it, but it wasn't where I want to be. And then the second event, so on and so forth. It just kind of like, as the weekend, I could feel myself kind of shutting down and not really enjoying being there out there.
Yeah.
But I just tried to, good thing, like I said, I had you guys, I had my girlfriend, just to be like, enjoy it. It's your first one. Take it in, see, learn from it, move on. But you know, you're out there and it's 3 days, whatever it was. And it's just like, oh God, here we go again, like gonna get my ass kicked. So
yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, I don't win or lose, I win and learn. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we actually had a podcast recently about kind of loss and failure. And one of the things that I think that you did really well after that, and partly because, I think Max was in your corner and you guys talked after and said, here's what I saw, but you did a good job of coming away from that and saying, I need to lose some weight. I need to work on these body weight movements. I need to work on my running. And you guys basically had a checklist and you guys started basically preparing for whatever the next event was. Now, unbeknownst to us, this year has just been wild and crazy, but this weekend watching you, this is definitely the most fit I've seen in either your training numbers or in person, which this is only the second time I've seen you in person train. But like I watched your design numbers and each week you're crushing things.
That's only 10 months.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So in 10 months, I think you've made a lot of progress. There's still things that are very obvious. Like this last workout you guys just did, 30 squat clean thrusters at 155, 30 muscle ups, 30 power snatches at 155.
Yes, the 135 standard wasn't enough.
Yeah. No, that's called the Tater McElroy Supreme.
Yeah. Your squat clean thrusters look great. You're really strong. Your muscle ups, you were able to chip away. But I think that there's still some deficiencies there that you guys will continue 100%. To work on, and something that we talked about after the workout. Yeah. But you still won that workout. I think you finished in 10:59, which if anybody wants to try that workout, they did 15 workouts or 14 before that. Yeah. And then that was their last one. 10:59 is still like, that's world class. So you've come a long way. What do you attribute that to? And where have your focuses been over the last 10 months?
So I guess I want to say let's go back to Mayhem. Okay. So after every event at Mayhem, every night, Max had talked to me before and was like, hey, I want you to make a checklist after each event, what went wrong or what went good, what went bad, what you would like to improve upon. Yeah. So every night, like after, say day one, we sat down. When I was stretching, I would literally journaled in my phone, just on the notes real quick, like, hey, this didn't go good. I wasn't like, what did I feel? Things like that. And then afterwards we came back here, we talked, we like sat down a little bit, nothing crazy, but just sat down and talked about it and kind of explained to him exactly what I had written down. And then he was just like, all right, like, I guess this is like some things we need to work on. Let's start here and let's move on. The other thing I would attribute to is one, you guys, obviously the design and everything, because that's the group I'm part of. I would say, yes, I have that hybrid of the design, you, and then Max a little bit, and then Becky helping. But realistically, like me being a heavier dude, the design has been very good for me because it's targeted towards the open. I need that practice. That's something I can't like lose. And then the other thing is I didn't follow anything really before the design. I was kind of one of those people who bounced around, was picking things that I wanted to do, doing very like sanctional style workouts. And what I mean by that is like heavy deadlifts, things like that, no parallels. Things you're probably good at. Yeah, exactly. Right? I was not really spending time. Why would I want to do burpees? That's not fun for me.
Well said.
Yeah. It's not fun for me. Or even just body weight stuff. But I think sticking with literally just sticking with it and trusting the process, as they all say. And honestly, like I'm one of those people who is, if I trust you, I'm going to put all my chips in your guys' corner. I'm just going to do what you guys tell me and just try to execute when it comes time to. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is took notes, nutrition, dialed in, and see where I need to pick up and just keep following the process. And then on top of that, making sure that I'm communicating with you guys, whether that's via the design or Max text message or email, whatever, and just making sure like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. We need to change some things up because one, whether that was, hey, I got exposed in that throwdown workout or something, and we need to build this, whether that was grip limitation or something like that. So
I think that's one of the biggest things, right? Of like actually going to these competitions or like the throwdowns. That's the reason we started is to expose yourself. 100%. Some you're going to crush and you usually crush them. But
how many throwdowns have you won?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, not at all.
Do you know Brandon?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
no
There's
idea.
some studs in the throat. Like,
probably not that many, to be honest, right? But you're close a lot of times.
I would say, yeah. Like I'm not like, I mean, I go out to win, but there's some studs in the design or that do the throwdowns, and it's awesome. It's an awesome push. I might not win, but I feel like I can stick with them. So yeah.
But the purpose of that is exactly for that, to push yourself and see where you stack up, right? And so like some weeks maybe you crush, other weeks you don't. Some weeks maybe you're in the top 5, and then those that maybe you're 25th or 30th, which for you is not high enough for your goals. That's when you have that conversation of, hey, what was the limitation in this workout, and then how do I get it better? And I think that's part of the process of any good athlete is in any sport, but especially this, where there are so many movements that you have to be good at and so many time domains and skills. You're always figuring out a new way to get better or more efficient at a movement or have more capacity or whatever it may be. So the cool thing this weekend watching you is like, as coaches, Max and I have already talked about, they basically watch you every single workout and then say, Dylan needs to do this, this, and this with this type of test, right? And then these are things that, Max will sit down with you and talk about, and then kind of build out a structure that allows you to still hit everything in the design, but say, you need to do this mobility work, or you need to make sure that you're doing these skills so that you continue to develop as an athlete. Yeah. So that leads me into, what is the long-term goal for you, or what are the goals that you have right now on your plate?
So the first one.
I just saw this man make a plate outside of food.
Oh, yeah.
His plate was like a mountain. So if you're...
Well, it's funny because he was talking about losing weight, and then I saw his plate, and I'm like, this dude's eating for like my children and my wife.
I've been on a liquid carb diet like all weekend, just like Sour Patch Kids, like anything I can just to fuel up.
That is a staple with CrossFitters, huh? I see Sour Patch all the time.
I don't know. Like so for me, like that's not how I normally eat, but like, like I told you, I'm wrecked. Like I've never done this much volume in my life. And so I was just excited to eat. Like I've had one meal today and it was a little mush. Like that was it. Yeah. And then that huge plate. So,
and you guys have been up early. You've done some late workouts. I mean, it's 15 total workouts. A lot of them were real. I mean, yesterday there were some grinders that you guys did.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I do not eat like that, a plate like that. I usually do smaller portions and multiple throughout the day. But like, I'm at the point now where I'm like, all right, I feel like I earned this. Like, I'm just going to
definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
But back to your goal plate.
Yeah. So back to the goal plate. I would say right now, so I'm dealing with some knee stuff as well. I just had surgery as well. I think, so I was very happy with how it's feeling after all that stuff. Right now I think I might've told you, maybe I was telling somebody, maybe it was Max. I said, after that trail run we just did this morning, my knee's kind of buggy. So I was happy with how it held up on that last squat clean workout, like no pain, nothing. But I need to make sure that gets 100%. I don't want to like have anything. I don't want something to happen again. So that is number one, making sure that's healthy, good to go by the open. And I think it will be. I'm working with some good people, you guys included. And then on top of that, I think the ultimate goal, I just had this conversation with Max kind of this morning. It was actually at random. He was like, my background is kinesiology. And so he was like, why didn't you pursue something in kinesiology? And I just told him dead honest, like, I don't want to, because if you pursue something like that, it's usually a 9 to 5 job, right? And I don't want to right now, I don't want to like have any regrets when I get older and being like, what if I kept pursuing, even though I'm not like working full time right now, I'm very fortunate with what I am. I'm a coach at CrossFit Medfield over there. I program over there.
Boston area?
Yeah, Boston area. And like, they've been awesome, like very supportive and everything. And so like, it would be nice to get a career started, but also like, I don't want to look back and say, what if? Like, it's just my biggest, that's like, I don't want to have any regrets. So I just keep pursuing it. So my ultimate goal is to make it to the games. That's my number one right now. And then obviously from there, once that happens, it would be, podium or anything like that. That's like down the road, definitely more like probably a realistic, like 3 to 5 year goal for that one. But definitely like in a shorter term goal is making it to the games.
Yeah, for sure. The knee right now, you had surgery. What was that? 6 months now? Yeah, like 7.
I just go off of weeks.
Yeah.
So I would say it was more like 6 months.
You snatched 265 and it looked like a warm up weight out here. That's it. But
didn't feel like a warm up weight. Did not feel like it. Yeah.
Feeling real, totally different. You should B-roll that if you have the video. He snatched. I'm like, he hasn't snatched over 225 since.
Was that on day one?
Yeah.
I might have that.
Yeah. I was like, man, that looked it. Obviously, your depth still needs to improve because I think you're a little worried about your knee, but you still have a ton of strength. So then moving forward between now and the open, I think your focus is a lot of open style tests, getting better at the body weight stuff, trying to drop down to that 210. Is that kind of where you're thinking?
Yeah. Yep. Drop the weight a little bit, but slowly. I think so. When I started working back, my weight just fluctuates real easily. Like Becky had me, she was like working with me, and in, I want to say it was 10 weeks, and I got down from 225 to 209, 210. And I was like, oh my God. Like it wasn't like bad from a gymnastics or running standpoint, but my joints were starting to hurt. And I think it was because I lost weight so fast. So that's when we were kind of like, all right, let's kind of make sure we're not losing that much weight that fast. But the long-term goal, lose some weight, make sure that I'm ready for the open. And then 3 is make sure my mobility from a bottom of a squat and overhead position is good, and that my knee can tolerate it. Like that I'm not like worried about getting dug down in the deep squat position or anything like that. Yeah.
Let's talk about the design. What drew you to the design, and what have, as far as the process kind of moving forward and what you've done over the last so many months, what has kept you in it?
All right. Well, what do you mean by has kept me in it?
So what's
what has not made me go somewhere else? Or?
Yeah, you said before, and this is like the tendency of everyone. We have so many people that come on, and everybody does, right? They jump from one blog to the next, one online training program to the next, one coach to the next, because everyone thinks the grass is greener on the other side. And
100%.
sometimes that may be true. I found most of the time it's probably not, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what has it been for you that's kind of like, hey, I've bought into this, and this is where I want to be?
Well, all right. So when I started, one of my buddies, he was looking into like you guys, but this was before the design came out.
Yeah.
And you guys were all booked up. You guys weren't taking on clients. So he was like, all right, I'm going to go to Brute Strength. And we started following Brute Strength, and he bought the program, and it was tailored to get him stronger. So I didn't need that.
Yeah.
But I was loving it because I was like, oh, we're just lifting weights and we're just getting like strong.
Your dream.
Yeah. But like, then my open performance was just kind of like crap, but whatever. I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm lifting with friends, whatever. He did really well and moved on to the regionals. This was back when the regionals was going, very last regional. And so then I had graduated, and I kind of like started like looking at just like picking and choosing from Instagram, anything I saw. Yeah. And then I had always known you guys. The first time I actually saw you guys, so Ashley, my girlfriend, who she's a stud as well. She was at Dubai like 2 years ago. And you guys were all there, I think. And I think you guys were. And I remember like just off to the side telling her like those guys, like I know a little bit about them. I've seen them social media, like their YouTube stuff. And I just was really interested in your guys' philosophies, just because my background, kinesiology and all that. And I liked that you guys were just different. So from there, I had always kind of followed you on like social media, and then you guys had announced that you're coming out with this competitor program, because that's what it started as. And I was like, all right, awesome. One, I'm not gonna lie, it was affordable. Like it was something that like I could actually afford. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm very interested. You guys have some great athletes as well. So I jumped on board. Probably one of the first guys. I think I was one of the first people to do it. And then from there, I like I said, the philosophies that you guys have done, like that you guys implement into your training. I feel like, it's really tough, but I'm also feel like it's not like I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to kill me. Like it pushes me to my threshold, but it's not over the top. And I think that's a thing that people get confused about too, is like, oh, I just got to wreck myself every day. It's like, no, like I think you need to be able to still perform really high level, really high intensity, and then back off, back and forth.
You got to have more consistency.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
for sure.
So that was really what kind of like, I've always been kind of a fanboy. And then I saw that
was it because of Max's bald head and how cute he is? Mainly.
Maybe, I guess. No,
this is where you can say your second ass.
Second ass. Mm-hmm. I've already said, I think it's a 2 or 3.
Yeah, but those didn't count, remember?
Oh.
It's because what?
Throwing him off right now.
You are throwing me off. No.
So
I do.
Where did you finish in the open last year? I think that's a good...
Can we go even earlier than that? I was wondering, because you gave your background and then you said how you got into CrossFit, but where did you bridge the gap between I'm doing CrossFit to now I want to compete? When did that kind of take place for you?
I was one of those guys who 1 week into just CrossFit, I was like, I want to compete.
All in.
I was all in. Yeah.
I feel like most people are like that though, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it just seems like everybody just, it's head first into the deep end of the
100%. And the problem with, like, I don't mean to, I'm not going to say the name of the affiliate or anything, just cause, but when I went in there, it kind of like, I was like eager to compete and everything after like 1 week, and the affiliate owner was like, all right, but you have to do my programming. And I was like, well, who do you have that's, competitive, or like, you know what I mean? Like, what's your, like, how can I trust you? He hadn't built that, is it repertoire, whatever that is? I'm trying to look for the word. He hasn't built that resume.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, why do I have to do your stuff? Why can't I like pick and choose, like comp, like, you know what I mean? Anything like that. And he was just adamant. So I first started out like a whole month doing the same workout twice in one day. So I'd go in the morning, do the workout, and then I'd come in at night and try to beat my time, because that was like, I didn't want to do his stuff, but I wanted to make sure like I was still doing something competitive. Yeah. And so that's kind of how it started. I basically did the couple workouts I told you guys about with Pete, and then dropped in, there was the gym that was at my college. And like I said, it was the only affiliate around that area. And so that's where I started. And then, once there was an actual CrossFit gym made at the college, it was a little bit different, but yeah.
How long until you started competing though? Like, I know you did your first sanctional mayhem, but did you do local comps and all that?
Yeah. I probably did my first local competition 5 to 6 months into competing. And then a bigger competition was local, but it was like, there was like some good regional athletes there. Like, have you guys heard of Alan Dunlap and Mitch Wagner and those guys? Yeah. So like, it was a partner competition. So I did it with Tanner, who I was talking about. And I think that was probably maybe 9 months to a year of doing it. But yeah, I think my first one was like 6 months, but it was just at the affiliate that I was at. So
do you know how many competitions you've done?
Like local or big or anything? I think maybe I probably have only done like 7. I don't have a lot of competition in CrossFit. I don't have a lot of competition experience at all. So
watching you at Mayhem, I think that's one of the things that you just have to continue to improve on. Is like actually getting into the arena. And so that's something there's like this fine balance for CrossFitters, especially even high level CrossFitters. Everybody wants to compete all the time, but then they get run down. But then some people are like, well, I need to focus on my training and make sure that I continue to improve, so that when I do go, I show up and I'm like, I can crush every workout. But it's like that in between, right?
That's how I used to be, was like, I just want to go there and make sure that I don't fall apart. But the thing is it's embarrassing and it's a hard pill to swallow, but you'll never, so, I know people say it all the time, but you will never learn if you don't go. Like, you'll never find what you're not good at if you don't go. And that was like an example of Mayhem. Like, yes, every single workout I needed to get better at. There was something I needed to get better at, but how else would I have known if I never got exposed? Exactly. So like, that's something that it's very embarrassing when you're in it, but it's so rewarding when like I always say is, I feel like I've improved so much since Mayhem till now. And I would never want to change that, that experience, I guess. I would never want to
That's one of the things that I love about the design is, I'm not training to be competitive, but I still like to see your scores or other people that are on the leaderboard and just have some fun. Yeah. Like, I know maybe I'm not where you're at, but it's like, let's see where I can stack up on some of these workouts.
There are some workouts you're pretty dang good at.
Handstand push-ups.
But still, like, it gives me something to go and chase after.
And so for me, it's a great opportunity to just kind of see like, hey, where do I stack up in these things? But then also for all the other people that are there, we have hundreds of people on the leaderboard now and some really good male and female athletes. 100%. So that you can see that a lot of times I think people think they're good at something in their gym, right? Like, you're crushing everyone else in the gym, and then you go on a leaderboard like the Open, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I finished 5,000th in this and I'm beating everybody in my gym. Then that's like the realization of, I have to work on these things. So now you're getting that every single day on the design, because you have that leaderboard where you can see, and you're usually at the top, but there's some workouts, like, especially when you have a Noah and a Jeremiah, and Evan Rogers is beating you in some workouts dude, now.
I want to meet him. He's really good.
Yeah. And there's so many other guys that are just like, some workouts they crush. And so it's a really cool thing to see all these guys now being competitive.
Is Evan the guy that when you log in, you're like, let me see what Evan's doing?
So, well,
do you stalk anybody?
No, but I do check the leaderboard. But the thing is I train pretty early in the morning. And
you're always up there early.
Tanner Balaz that's here, right? He, like, nobody puts in their scores until later. And so I feel like the first, but that's because I'm in there and I don't want to forget to log my stuff. So So I'm always looking, I'm like, nobody's logged their scores. And then like somebody will beat me by like 10, like say Tanner beats me by like 10 cents. I'm like, dude, I wish you would just put your score in first. So then I had some dividend.
No, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
As a coach, I can just wait.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to work out later. I actually did that yesterday because I didn't really want to work out, to be completely honest with you. And there were a couple guys at the top there was a max cal row yesterday after some other stuff. And it was
real quick. I don't know if you want, but what was that workout?
So
I'm interested.
3 sets, 5-minute AMRAP. It was 15 bar facing burpees, 15 box jump overs at 24 inches for the guys, 15 burpees to 6 inches, and then AMRAP row cals in remaining time. And so I was like, I didn't want to do it. I went home. I had to finish all my designs because I was here with the games camp. I was like, you know what? I'm going to look at the leaderboard and I'm just going to beat whoever. Because it's something that I knew that I could do well in because burpees are pretty good. And I looked in Evan and Nate Long and a couple other guys were at like 65 or 66 calories. I'm like, all right, I just got to dig in. But I think that's another cool thing of like, if I didn't look at the leaderboard, I would have probably done 50 cals each time and just like cruise. It would have hurt, but I wouldn't have pushed myself like I did.
That's one of the things. And I know we keep saying it is, when the days that I don't necessarily want to, there are days, like, believe me, there are days where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to kind of not coast, but just like train almost, instead of compete. And so, but then there's days where I'm like, all right, I'm going after it and like going to get after it. But yeah, I think that's the beauty of it. Like we can keep saying over and over, we're able to look at it. And if we're feeling like we want to get after it, you can have somebody to actually stack up against.
Yeah.
So.
And not only at the top of the leaderboard, I know I'm using you as an example, but that's because you are at the top, but like, it's cool to see, because I go through and comment on people's posts and look even at the people that are modifying and scaling. Those people are battling each other, right? Like everyone has their almost like peer group on there that's like, these are the 4 or 5 guys or girls that I'm competitive with. And so they're always checking their scores. To me, that's been the best addition in the design, going to the app that we have now where you have the leaderboard each day. You can go through it. And then also like from a coach's perspective, like I can comment on your stuff. I see you, whatever you shoulder press 280 or something like that.
Yeah, that was a nice little like strict press strength cycle we did.
Yeah, we did a little hatch shoulder press cycle.
Yeah, we
bench
did.
press. So that was a lot of
like
fun.
8 weeks?
Noah was doing design all the way from quarantine all the way up until
he was.
stage 1. And he just said he's going to jump back in after the games. How many times did you beat him? Did you ever, or you said you don't look at the leaderboard, do you?
No, I look at the leaderboard. I don't know. Like,
did you ever get him?
I got him on. I got him on.
Stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm not gonna lie.
How'd you feel? He got him this weekend. He beat him in the last workout.
Anytime if I beat Noah or somebody that's super competitive like that, I'm gonna feel really good about myself. But yeah, no, it's been fun. Like having him on board. Travis was even on board at times.
Yeah, he's gonna be on there more often now.
So like, it's been good to have some of those guys that level, like to push with, and just literally to see where I am. Like. And maybe I'm not close to them. Maybe I am, but it's just good to know where I am, especially if I can't train with them in person.
Yeah, that's especially during this time with COVID and everything. Like there was time where I'm assuming you were at home too, right? Like,
well, I mean, honestly, that whole situation helped. Like it with COVID, and then my knee, because my knee happened right the day that our gym shut down. So yeah, it was like,
walk us through the knee thing, because everyone's going to deal with some knee or some trouble.
So I don't want it to like. I hate using it as like. I kept it very quiet because I don't want, I want people to not necessarily know that's what I had going on. But like now that it's kind of getting better, I tore my meniscus. I caught a clean wrong. Ashley and I had qualified for Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. And we were getting prepped for that.
What month was this?
When did,
had to be March, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
End of March started. Yeah. So I think anyway, we had qualified, and then, we both did. So that was going to be a really fun experience. We were going to go and really like, goal was make it to the games, but we also wanted to enjoy like going out there to Amsterdam. Never have been. But anyway, we were training. It was the day the gym was shutting down. So it was our last day there. We were training. I didn't feel good. Caught a clean wrong. Knee buckled in. I think it was like a day we were trying to go for a 1 rep max.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Ashley, I was like, I don't feel good. Like, I don't know what, I don't feel good. And so, but I still went for it, and it was stupid, and then caught my knee, buckled in wrong. And I just felt a pop instantly. Like I just knew something was bad. I had thought it was my meniscus or ACL. And so I'm not gonna lie, to be honest and just be completely transparent, I went in the back and cried a little bit in the back office. I was like, I'm done. Like my competitive season is like forever is done. I'll never be the same. I hear that all the time with knee stuff. And especially if it's an MCL or ACL, what is that? Like a 6 month to year long process. Yeah. And I was terrified, like fully terrified. And so then I instantly the next day went and got and x-ray and, MRI, all that stuff. Came back, meniscus, which everybody kept telling me that's the best case scenario. It really is. And then the guy said, we'll do surgery and you'll actually be back fully. Like you won't be 100%, but you could start doing definitely like squat cleans, things like that, about 10 weeks in, 12 weeks in. Well, then 10 to 12 weeks in, because I started out, during that time, the 10 weeks, let's start there, is I was just doing like strict muscle ups. I think I ran like a strict muscle up progression for a little bit and doing bench presses, things like that, just staying off the leg. Very short time in the gym, probably only like 45 minutes. And of course with COVID, I'm like, oh, I have access to the gym. I want to be training. So I was playing with that mental thing too. And then once that 10 weeks came by, I went back to see the physical therapist, or no, not physical therapist. They weren't open. Went back to see my surgeon and he was like, you still don't have full range of motion. And I was like, yeah, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, and he was like, we just need to drain your knee. So we drained my knee and he was like, all right, since it's drained now, make sure you stay off of it. Don't squat again, cause you'll have full range, but spend like 3 weeks of doing nothing on it again. And so then I spent 3 weeks of doing nothing and then slowly started implementing from there. So I think we're like 13 to 15 weeks in now. I started doing like air squats, just a barbell on the back, 135. And then it slowly started progressing more and more. Lunges actually didn't hurt it at all, which is really odd, but I think it might be because my knee wasn't going over my toe.
You weren't creating deep flexion. I think that was one of the big things for you is you're probably staying about 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And you wanted to get past 130 as far as knee flexion goes before you can start really like
I think
squatting.
You're right, yeah. So that was that process. And then from there, I just kind of stayed I was eager to go, but I felt like I was also very reserved. I still am reserved. Like I said, like the snatch.
We talked during that time. We emailed back and forth because I just asked, what was the process? What are you doing? And I think that one of the things you did very well was you were diligent and patient. Mm-hmm. You basically sent me an email of all the things that you were doing and you were doing exactly what you should have been. Yeah. So it sucks when those things happen, and a lot of people have gone through that process, but some people really fail that process by just trying to rush back in. And I think you were patient enough now, like you snatched 265, you did heavy squat clean thrusters, you did other workouts that had squatting in it. You ran 3 times this weekend and you were resilient for the most part. And obviously you're always going to have to be more thoughtful now about how you warm up and your positions with your knee, but there is another side to that and you're on the right side of, being hurt. You know what I mean? And so I think that hopefully that can people can look at that and say, oh, if that's me, then if you do it the right way, then you can come back.
You got to do it the right way because my biggest fear is like, I got surgery, but if it tears again, like it's going to be, you're just back to step one. And so like, it's might as well just make sure it's healthy and good to go. Because you want to be eager, but you also just need to be patient. Like we keep saying.
Yeah.
So,
and you were able to do other things. Like you said, you were doing the strict muscle up progressions. You did shoulder press.
But that's
and bench
the beauty
press progressions.
of what we do. CrossFit. Right. Like I can work. And for me, I don't need to be squatting heavy. I need to probably be doing strict work, upper body, as in like strict muscle up work or handstand push up work, things like that.
You started implementing some kipping work in too, probably 10 weeks, 12 weeks, something like that. You're doing chest to bars, toe to bar variations, maybe not nailing your toes to the bar, but I know you were doing some of that.
Yeah, I was doing some of it. I was more so like the pull ups and chest to bars, bar muscle ups, but I had to be very careful on coming down from the bar because even like a quarter little, like a push press, like quarter squat like that, it still, I'm sure you have it too at times. It still could put pressure on the knee. So I was very, very cautious with that.
Yeah. And then you also were still working on some of the cyclical stuff that you could do. I think you got into doing some
stuff, a lot of
ton of bike stuff, Skierg.
Yeah,
you were doing a lot of
was
that.
A big one.
That was the first thing that I did is, a couple weeks out, I already started some Skierg progressions and there's still plenty of things that you can do. So like you said, I mean, they're in this sport. There are so many things you have to be good at that it's not, I know that it feels like it's the end of everything, like you said, when you popped your knee and everything, you're like, what's going on? Is it ACL? Is it MCL? Is it meniscus? But there's always a path forward. It's just a matter of, can you make that for yourself? And I think you did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah. And then last thing was like, I was like wanting to start lifting a little bit. And so he had me start doing more like deadlifts and because anything that wasn't really bending my knee that much, started implementing that stuff. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing people got to take away is, in it, I get it. It's not easy to think of, but one, finding a support system, you guys, my girlfriend, all that. I think that's a big one.
Speaking of your girlfriend, you said like y'all had to cancel the event that y'all were going to do together, but you did do the Throwdown team series.
Yeah, we did.
And y'all were the winners.
Yeah,
correct?
we did.
Why don't you tell them what your team name was?
team. I don't know how we say it. People say it, but Team WAP. Perfect
WAP.
timing.
What did that stand for?
Well, she's the one that was the creative person behind it.
Blame her.
No. Like, I'll give her credit, not blame her. I'm going to give her credit. So her last name is Wozni, W, and then my last name is Pettit, so it fit perfectly. And of course, that was the perfect timing because I think it was like
y'all
a week
nailed it.
after the song had like came out and was like a big thing. So
Max was 100% confident that that's not what it meant, and it was the song. And so that's what Max kept saying.
It was a play on both. But that she was like, because that was her intention, right?
Max's dirty mind.
Yeah.
He's just like,
It didn't seem like something y'all would do unless it made sense, which in this case.
Oh, it definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's their last name.
It was.
But he was like, no, that's the song. That's definitely the song.
She's very creative like that. So it was perfect. But that was that. Speaking of that was a lot of fun. I don't know if that was your idea of the team series.
Yeah,
What, the video? The team series.
Team series, the video.
I choreographed that, by the way. Yeah, I think it was just a coaches. We basically all came together and said, we need to do something fun. It was still COVID's going on. It's tough right now.
It was a blast. And like I said, her and I know I keep talking about her. One, I miss her like crazy, but it was very fun because we're both competitive. She competes in CrossFit as well. And so it was fun to be able to, we trained together, but it was fun to do something not competing against one another, but actually doing it together. So it was a good time.
I love it. Team stuff now is like my go-to just because of where I'm at. So last thing, we talked about your goals moving forward, but between now and the Open, do you have a specific goal for the Open this year? Do you have a number in mind? You know where you were at last year? Or is it more like, hey, I just want to get after this training time and then see where I stacked up?
I think currently, to be honest, I don't have a goal right now with like where I want to place.
Where were you last year?
Do you have any? I know it was like 40 something.
Yeah, you were close to the cut line. That's for sure.
I mean, it was the last 3 workouts that I really dug, and it got me there. But I don't know. I don't have an exact number for you.
Top 50 in the world for sure.
But to be like, obviously, I want to do better than that this year. But I don't have a number for you. The real goal is I want to qualify through the Open, and that's why, like I said, I've just been going back to what we've talked about. I have to keep hammering Open stuff. But then there's also other things. So, but otherwise, I don't want to give the Open training. Because I don't want to do worse than last year, obviously.
For sure. So, well, the nice thing about the design is it is revolved around the Open schedule. Yeah. And as we get a new release, hopefully after the games, of what the CrossFit Games schedule will look like, then we're going to plan a year out, right? Yeah. So then it'll be like, we obviously are going to have our Open prep cycle that's coming up towards the end of December into January. Then we'll prep for the Open. And then let's say maybe they do go to a different format. Maybe they set up the sanctionals or there's regionals again straight. Or something like that. Then we'll prep all our athletes for those different things that are coming out. So I think it's a good setup for everyone and for you, my friend.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Any last words?
No, not.
You want to talk trash that you beat everybody on the last workout?
No.
Oh, you're so humble.
I'm going to be humble about it. Yeah,
you really are.
Yeah.
Just do a little trash talk to Noah real quick. He's going out to the games, man.
I mean, he was in front of me, so I was watching him the whole time. I was like, just stay ahead of him the whole time. Because how we were set up, right? We were all facing one way, and I was just like, if I can just stay a couple reps ahead of him the whole time, I'm fine.
I was thinking that you did have an advantage there because you could see his reps.
100%.
Nick had the best
view. He was like, he came every single person. He was like, I could see every single one of you because that first one was that. So that last event had 2 separate scores, and it was the first one was the 30 squat clean thrusters for time, and I was like, I don't want to blow up, but I want to kind of win it, But Nick was like, I just had to make sure I stay ahead of Dylan the whole time. And that's how I was thinking with Noah and all those guys.
I could see Nick's eyes the entire time watching you because he knew that you were going to be the competitive one. And we're going to finish with the same thing. Thank you, Dylan Pettit. Hi, Kyle Ruth. I appreciate you being in the room today. Chris, thank you so much for all your talented work on the camera. Do you want to say anything, Kyle Ruth, before we finish this podcast? That was a lot of fun. See you guys.
Oh, I didn't even hear him.